Control first. They come up every Saturday. They pick up dogs that doesn't have collars on them, or cats, or whatever the case may be. But if it has a collar with a name or a rabies tag on it, then they have to call the police. Then the police has to go out, give them a warning or citation, whatever the case may be. Now, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, but it's strictly a rabies tag, because at that point it is a dog that is owned by someone, because they've identified it as their dog, because a rabies tag has their name on it. So they will not enforce our ordinance, which states you as an owner have to have your dog in your property. So at that point they are enforcing our ordinance. So they will not pick up the dog that has the rabies tag on it. If they come up and there's a dog that has just a flea collar, a regular collar, and we've reported it as a nuisance dog, animal, whatever, they will pick those type animals up.
So if it's a vicious animal with a rabies tag,
Now,
nothing will happen.
that's a different story. Then they will call our police. The police will go out and determine that it's a vicious dog, and then they will request them to pick up that dog as being vicious.
So the police department has to request.
Right,
the
they will have to
control.
respond then.
Uh,
Which they did to my residence on Monday, and I am as of yet to have the dog picked up.
The police or animal control? Who responded to you? I saw the deal in the paper about your residence, but who responded, the police or animal control?
Well, I don't know that either one of them
Oh, either of
responded,
them have
because
responded.
I waited, and I was just told that animal control was on their way, so for me to go on to work, so I did.
Okay, I believe it was.
Is the dog missing now?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I just don't let my children come outside.
Yeah.
They didn't go walking with me on 2 occasions this week for that reason.
And we do have to stop and think about the fact that if a police officer is on call, sometimes it can take them anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes or even longer if it's one officer on call. I mean, by the time they get this call, that dog will be gone. But I've spoken to Conrad several times about this, and they're going to make every effort they can. And in the future, we might even utilize some of our police auxiliary on the Saturday for this.
Well,
it's
I'm a little frustrated at this, but I'm wondering what if a police officer responds to a call on a dog that has a collar and a tag on it. I mean, does my officer have to catch the dog and see who the dog belongs to and then bring the dog to the owner? I don't know that there's a clear path to resolving these issues.
Well, that's what your ordinance states. Your ordinance states that the owner who is violating your...
But we have
animal
to catch the
control.
dog to figure out
You
who
do.
owns it.
You do.
And that's not always going to be a task that's you can accomplish.
that you can
Yeah, I
accomplish.
mean,
Is that what you said?
Well, that a police officer, he doesn't
Right.
have the tools to necessarily snag a stray dog
Well, we need to revise our ordinance. then.
unless we carry biscuits or something, put that in
And
the
a little
budget.
wagon behind the car.
We don't need to tie a police officer up against a dog.
Well, that's another thought too.
That's why I mentioned the auxiliary. Someone else had mentioned that to me, and I didn't think it was a bad idea. That especially on Saturday, if they need, we have one officer on call. Saturdays are usually their busiest. Weekends are always busy,
Well, I think we need to get a better resolution to the issue than, you throw those things just constantly at the police department, and I mean, when they're not there to respond to something serious because they're running down a dog.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe we need to visit the dog ordinance then.
Then possible.
Work out
If that's
something.
what it needs to happen, then that's what
I mean, it would have worked fine if they had just enforced our ordinance, but since they can't, 100% is what I mean.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you know, it may be, anyway, we can talk about it more, and
Okay.
right now we'll leave it as is until we have time to sit down, and if I invite any of you that wanna write up another, sketch of an ordinance. And then
It sounds
we'll
like the problem is with the animal control officer, we don't have control over him, and he's not doing something that we expected him to do.
That
Well, they
Well,
legally
they have-
cannot.
Well, we
Their
didn't have that
attorney.
clear understanding when we wrote the ordinance. I mean, at least I didn't.
I
thought-
didn't either.
Well, I don't think
thought-
any of us did, actually.
I thought they were authorized to enforce our ordinance and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
See, they work under their own ordinance, the county ordinance is what they work
That
under.
seems to me like that's what we ought to approach, is the, whatever, if there is a way to embody the animal control officer to enforce our ordinances. Is
That's to
there-
rescind they will not, they by law cannot
By law
enforce
cannot.
your ordinance, so you just need to simply rescind your ordinances on the table and have no authority to enforce it and give them full control. And then we have no ordinance on the books and we have no enforcement authority. We're giving it all to them.
Give it all to them. So that's the other
Mhm.
alternative.
Yeah, and during the
But
week,
that brings up
we
issues
don't have
also,
animal
doesn't
control
it?
up here. We'll only have them on Saturday, so,
Okay.
and pretty soon people are gonna get smart and they'll lock their dogs up on Saturday and we'll have a problem the other 6 days. So,
Not on the Baron.
it's not an easy thing.
They don't care
You know,
what
I
time it
think
is.
personally, if the police officers went out and cited with citations to some of these people, get in their pocketbook, they will keep the dogs in. You know, I think that's what we need to do.
Yes,
Do
ma'am,
some
I
fines.
absolutely agree with you.
And when they see that people are getting fines for this, they're gonna naturally wanna take better care of the animals. Well,
I'll discuss it with Chief tomorrow morning.
okay.
I have one other item. You and I had talked some time ago, months ago, about possibility of lining up a disposal capability for refrigerators and
Yeah.
junk and that sort of thing, and perhaps in a couple of locations before. I think we really ought to pursue that.
I'm ready.
Yes. Okay.
Anytime. I had the site that you
Okay.
didn't want that one, so I'm waiting on you to find me
Well,
a
I have another
site.
site in mind also, so
Okay.
talk about next week
Okay.
perhaps, and decide on what would be the next step with regard to getting dumpsters and that sort of thing.
I've got some drawings from,
Yes, go ahead.
I've had some drawings from the people that provide our garbage pickup
Okay.
on trash sites.
Okay. Will the approach ramps and sort of,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
If you'd be interested
Yeah.
in that, and then we can look at that.
Yeah,
We
that's-
can meet again with Allied Waste and,
Yeah.
see what our expense is gonna be. We have to have it fenced, we have to have somebody to man it.
But we want to have a project, we'll
And,
just get a project, you come up with a scope and do it as a project, build the ramps, build a fence
I think we need to.
and all that sort of thing, and perhaps have an engineer come up with and are you gonna do it with city employees, or do you wanna contract it out with, to a contractor and to build the ramps and build the fence and that sort of thing?
No, we'd probably contract that out. Yeah, they don't put up fence. Like the chain link fence, that's what it's gonna take. We have to have an area that people cannot get in it and put just anything in it, because they will, if that's happened before. And, you know, we'll have to decide on what hours we're gonna have it open, whether it's 2 days a week or 7 days a week. And, because we definitely have to have someone there. They got one in Satsuma, I think. I haven't been down to see it, but Suran, Allied Waste, said it, theirs was working pretty good. What is Satsuma, Joe?
It's either Satsuma or Sarah Lynn Mayer.
I think it's Satsuma.
Well, if you want to set up a meeting and with Allied and everybody, and everyone else interested, you know, I'm open.
Okay, we'll do that sometime. Maybe week after next. My next week's pretty full, so.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Yeah.